Hey, what is up, everybody? This is Silverspook, and this is the Silverspook Neofeud 2 Robo Revolt Human Soul State of the Game and Q&A with the dev, which is me. I am the solo dev of Neofeud 2, with the exception of some of the voice acting. So that's kind of the focus today. Back to one of these uh, my main day job focused streams, but also more interactive. So people in chat, I'm going to try to pay attention to that more than I sometimes do, and we're gonna see what's going on here. Also, I'm gonna share some never before seen material. Well, I shouldn't say never before. Maybe like not shared on the YouTube channel, but some newer material, new teaser trailer, and actually this image I've never shared before. Something I was just working on for Neofeud 2. I was really actually had I'm technically I'm done with all the official in-game art, but I'm making some more promotional art now. I'm working on trailers and promotional material, and currently working on a lot of the audio aspects of the game. In case for those who are like, I just kind of want to know what's going on with the game. Is it done? And it's like not quite done. Almost done. But I'll get more into the details on the state of it in a bit. Actually, let me check my chat computer. So don't forget, if you do have something to ask, I did have I had a Twitch hangout for folks to come around on Twitch. I just kind of offered it up. So I wanted to have a more socially interactive YouTube Silverspook event. Happy holidays if you celebrate those. If you celebrate Thanksgiving, we have Silverspook content on Thanksgiving. I actually did I did several years of a whole panel of fellow indigenous people from around the world, talking about that topic. If you want to hear some various voices on that, but hope you had a good weekend, holidays, family time. Hopefully it was hope it was more happy and less stressful and anxiety inducing. But we had a good one here though. We had just we're just chilling out. We did see family from a distance. That for an appropriate amount of time that wasn't super unnecessarily vexing. So that's nice. But that's how that went. But also, I'll get into the specifics of the game shortly. Just kind of waiting for this chat computer to start up. But yeah, in general, everything's going well. I wish I was a little bit more done, but I'm not quite as done as I would like to be with the game at the moment. What is up, Guillotiers? For those who would like to, I can also obviously talk about other topics, not just the game, because that's Silverspook games and output and streams and videos are pretty cross-disciplinary. I think that's the term. They're very hybridized. They're very they're very cyborg, and they're a mix of multiple things. So we'll talk about the state of the Earth, and history and other things too. But they want to give people an opportunity, because I haven't done this in about a month or two. So anyways, okay, looks like chat computer's working. In terms of the game, got about, at this moment, actually give me one second. It's weird. It's like the allergies. We just got done with these fires, and then kind of like in this image. No, the city is entirely burning, but then suddenly, like all the sun comes out, and then there's allergies everywhere. Anyways, so in terms of the game, there's a ton of in terms of the game, there has been a whole bunch of music that I have been working on. I had a list. If you want to see, I actually have a list. I don't know if I can easily share that. I went through the entire game and I made a list of every single part of the game that might require music, and then I basically went through and I like track by track, because like some of the parts of the game, like I'm gonna like some of the Neofeud 1 music is appropriate for scenes in Neofeud 2. Obviously there are some recurring characters, you might be able to tell that. But I did make, I made a list of all the tracks needed. It's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There's about 15, 16 or so musical pieces I needed for the soundtrack. Because there's like basically nothing that really fits there. And then I was like, these absolutely need to happen. Because I don't have some pre-existing music, Neofeud 1 soundtrack, that I can insert there, and based on that, I kind of took that list and I started composing. If you want to know like what kind of software I use, I made an update about this in the Patreon. Consider helping us out here at the Silver Spoon Cooperative by joining the Patreon if you'd like to. Get more inside updates, join the Discord, the Silver Spoon community there, and of course, get access to Silver Spoon University, over 1,600 hours of all the content it produced, categorized by topics. But also, so you want to like see like what kind of stuff, like just an example of what I've been working on for the last a little over a month. It has been a lot of this Ableton Live. The software is just a really old version of Ableton, which is Ableton Live is it's like a music production, for those who don't, like lay people, I guess. It's a music production software that like you can do MIDI, which is like like basically writing in the score, and then you can set instruments like violins or piano or whatever instruments you have samples for, synthetic instruments, synthesizers, like sampled real world instruments. And then, but you can also have like just audio files. So and there's many programs that do this kind of thing, but this is the one that I've been using for over 10 years. So the Neofeud 1 soundtrack, if you like the Neofeud 1 soundtrack, you can also get the Neofeud soundtrack on, Bandcamp. And all the sales here do help us out here at the Silver Spoon Cooperative as well. And if you are a fan of the Neofeud 1 soundtrack, I think you'll be a fan of the Neofeud 2 soundtrack as well, hopefully. I started putting out I put out one, and I may put out more of the Neofeud 2 soundtrack before the game comes out, because I think I saw another game. Maybe it wasn't Silksong. Maybe it was Silksong. Silksong, not Dispatch. I'm thinking about Dispatch because that's been I'm thinking about that a lot because I've been seeing so much of it. But there's like some recent game like released their soundtrack first. I guess that's more common, seems like. So I might do that. But this is a musical track called "The Garden of Weaving Past" that is one of the new music I've just composed in the last month and a half for Neofeud 2. And it's another screenshot from that, but you probably have seen that one before. So some people did pick it up. So if people want the music, I can put more of it out. Because some people there's a good number of people. I don't know what the percent, like there's a good, multiple digit percentage of people whose favorite aspect of Neofeud was the soundtrack. So I was like, I gotta really, for me, it's like, I appreciate it. Anytime anyone has positive things to say about, the art, the writing, the storyline, the characters' dialogue, the background art, the character art, animations, or anything else. The idea is explored, or the music, because I do all of that. It's kind of a weird thing to do, but I do all that. I mean, it's kind of I just think about it now. It is kind of a wild amount of work to do, but I do it all, and it's not generated with Gen AI. That's part of why I wanted to do this too, because I'll get into that. It is not made by ChatGPT or some stochastic pirate plagiarism software, rapid fire mass pilfering algorithm to generate images using other people's images. Like I do this in Photoshop. The music is in Ableton Live, the art's in Photoshop, and I program it in Adventure Game Studio. I've done some of this. I do it all at the same time, basically. And I've done some of this live on this stream. When I first started YouTube streaming, I was doing a little bit of a painting, and then doing some dev streams. It can be kind of like tedious. I mean, not tedious, but to me, it's like it takes a long time. So I don't feel like it's that interesting for people to watch. Maybe it'll get more interesting now that these what's going on with the various gestures vaguely around dystopian, malfunctioning, broken, misallocated large model software they call AI. So maybe I'll have to do more of those. But anyway, long story short, let me look at the chat. Okay, nothing yet. But if somebody, so Garden of Weaving Past. This is one of the musical tracks that I put out there. I'm gonna try to stay more focused, because I know I started late because I was really hemming and hawing about what I was gonna specifically talk about. But anyways, okay. So because I haven't shared this on this YouTube channel, I'm gonna share it. This is like some new material for some people. I think I shared it on Twitch before, but. This is a new teaser trailer I've recently created called it's using that music that I composed called the Garden of Weaving Pass. And if you remember in the Neofeud 1, right, there's a place called the Garden of Forking Pass if you played it. And so the Garden of Weaving Pass is where the Garden of Forking Paths at last converges. That's kind of a little bit of a cryptic foreshadowing or forelightening for you, as the case may be. It's the dawn of a new day, with lots of red and yellow involved. Okay, anyways, as opposed to blue and white and yellow and red, white, and blue. Okay, let's move on to that video. Let me just try to cue it up real quick. Oh, oops, sorry about that. If I missed your chat, yeah, I think I was on top chat, so for some reason it wasn't showing yours. I'm gonna go, yeah, make sure I pick up on all those messages. Well done, Yo Tears. Doing some kind of intro. Well, yeah, I guess I'll have to think about that, because sometimes I'm like, I leave it when I start, and I just like jump right into it because of, just because these are kind of like long form. They're gonna stay on the channel for a long time, so they're not really. Yeah, maybe for this one, I'm a little bit more loose with it, but the other ones are kind of most like improv YouTube videos. So, but yeah, for this one, I'll circle back because this is a more interactive one. But I don't know about the other ones. Yeah, we'll see. Because I did used to have an intro, but it didn't seem to work as well. Because some people that arrived, like, I don't want to just watch like that again. But I have to go. I'll give it some thought. Like on Twitch, I do have an intro that, kind of like let various trailers and videos run for a while before I actually get started, because of that. But on the YouTube, for the ones that, because sometimes what I'll do is I'll be citing these videos as like, this is where we talk about this topic, right? So it's kind of like, this is the video on this topic. So it's like almost like a live YouTube video. It's like a live edited YouTube video. It's as close to an edited YouTube video as I'm probably gonna come, because of how much time that I have or don't have to produce that. So it's kind of like, that's the way I kind of been thinking about it. Because about 3-4 years ago, I was just like playing something else. I think I was usually playing a Neofeud trailer in intro. But yeah, anyway. You have attained FOMO? Well, I mean, mostly when I'm talking, I'm not gonna be, mostly it's just Holly gonna be looking at your chat anyway, for a lot of it. But thanks for showing up for all the streams, though. It is much appreciated, and yeah, thanks for the input. We'll take it into account. One moment. Okay, actually, speaking of that, here, watch the Neofeud original trailer. So while I take a short disappearing break.
The Illuminati created us. They wanted to build a god with their own hands, and instead they created us.
Just because I'm made of silicone and aluminium, I must be doing something wrong. That's machine stereotyping, that is.
That's reality, that is. Machines are second-class citizens.
Humans are sentient persons by default, ma'am. They have personhood by heredity.
There are thousands upon thousands of overqualified slum dwellers. You are my peon. Don't you get it?
This wasn't a job. It was always just an excommunication sentence.
We're pawns in a feud bigger than we can imagine. Turn the cogs of the machine before Leviathan grinds you up and swallows you and yours.
We don't get to choose our hand, comrade. Prince, peon, rich, poor, human, robot.
I invented the crux of the royal's power, the secret to consciousness, our existence itself, the meaning of life.
I'm the $6 billion baller, not some troubled youth.
You are my greatest creation of all.
I had to build my own family. I hate your son. I hate your son.
I'm happy to smash all of the crowns and throw the gold shards down to the people. I will be the iconoclast queen.
But who makes you queen anyway? You in whose army, princess? You in whose army?
Okay, so let's move on. Okay, so that's the Garden of Weaving Pass. What else is going on? Yeah, so this is some of the latest art that I was recently working on. There's a whole bunch of music. I shared some of it, like some of the new music that I've been working on the Twitch stream. Well, I do a lot more Twitch streaming. It's about 3 days a week, and there's like one YouTube video. And there's way more time to fill on that in the Twitch stream. But anyways, okay, well let's talk about some other related material. I mean, part of the reason why I call this Robo Revolt and Human Soul, obviously in this scene, like in Neofeud 2, it's a story where there are machines. Well, there are, in Neofeud 1, there is sentient machines, there are humans, and there are chimera, or like half human, half animal hybrids, right? But there's various kinds of conscious beings, and there's a system of extreme, or there's a system. It's a worse world than our current present, which is often why I'll title it dystopian. And the machines and the synthetic or half human, half animal hybrids are just like another class amongst already existing classes of oppressed people, or people who are downtrodden. There's economic inequality, social inequities. There's also a global, wider but not that visible, geopolitical country to country injustices that's happening. And then the robots, and then the human animal new species, right? They're not really furries. They're like but they are like synthetic people, closer to the hybrids in Splice, right? They're like human animal hybridized people that were part of various biotech experiments, huge corporations trying to produce, I think they describe huge corporations trying to produce the Ubermensch, figuring out ways to produce immortality for themselves, of course, and working on, and so the synthetic machines are also the synthetic people, right? The robots, conscious robots, and the hybrids are all they're considered like products, right, of these corporations. I think hype tech is referenced, right? And so these people are pumped out, right, by the thousand or by the millions, right, by the billions ultimately, but they're all like discarded, right, as like failed products. They're like crash test dummies. I think they actually call them. One of them says that's what they refer to us as, crash test dummies, when they're testing, new psychoactives in the MK Ultra 2 program. I think that this robot called Gibson talks about that in Neofeud 1. And so in Neofeud 2, right, and Neofeud 1 is a pretty. I won't spoil the ending for anybody, but there's still struggles to be had in Neofeud 2, right? Obviously, otherwise it wouldn't be a game. Everything was happily ever after. But so like this, a lot of the main characters in Neofeud are robots, or like half robots. Like Carl Carbon. Carl Carbon is a half human. Well, he's a human, but he has like cybernetic limbs. So he's kind of like, in the world of Neofeud, he's kind of, cyborgs are like mulattoes, in South America, what they would call that. They're not fully, they don't have full personhood. They have semi-personhood. It's kind of like the way that it's it's kind of fun. I was thinking like the way people like a lot of Neofeud is like thinking about the cyberpunk lore, the culture around cyberpunk, and how cyberpunk has obviously, like I was recently reading an article to talk about sci-fi pilled billionaires, and like obviously cyberpunk is one of those. Like obviously the generative AI, right? These open AI, Google, XAI, and the big tech companies and just the wider tech industry, certainly the Western tech, Silicon Valley tech, big techs, they're very obsessed with various science fictional stories that they're trying to, it's unclear if they're trying to reproduce, if they understand what they're doing, or they just identifying with the supervillains. Do they identify with the people who destroy the world in Snowpiercer? That's why there's literal plans to blot out the sky. Do they identify with the machine oppressors in the Matrix? And that's why they're trying to turn humans into, or blot out the sky, and also turn humans into gruel to feed their mass human slopification software, a human destruction software called generative AI. I mean, it's unclear, but in Neofeud, it's a meta game really about the history of games and movies, TV shows, and books. Speaking about robots, artificial intelligence, advanced technology, the future of civilization, right? It's that's really the grist of the mill. Is like, so the main character kind of looks like John Connor, but he also has a Mega Man looking arm. He's an amalgamation of all like the ideas of what a robot kid could be, right? Like and all it's a reference to all these different he's like literally mismatched, and in the world he's also physically forced to piece his body together with all these half, like just cobbled together machine parts, because they can't afford, the machines are impoverished, oppressed peoples, right? They're all in poverty. They can't afford new arms. They're just discarded by the corporations, like giant multi-billion-dollar neglectful parents, right? Because Protege talks about himself as the $6 billion baller. His mom was a mega corporation, and they gave $6 billion, right, as like the womb to Protege's dad, who is this genius, Nobel Prize winning scientist in artificial consciousness and advanced technology, right? And so he was a child of this unloving father and unloving mega corporate, unloving hubristic scientist father, who also might be Breaking Bad like Walter White, and the unloving multi-billion-dollar corporation. And then they both discarded him into the wasteland, right? As a metaphor, it's also a metaphor like the lack of carrying life away. It's obviously general neglect for the future of a society. The way that the United States has one of the most horrible educational systems in the United States, and also assistance for parents, whether that's maternity leave or anything else like that, but also and then imports, right? The greatest minds, right? With H-1B visas, and tries to suck in and brain drain the rest of the world because it doesn't care about its own children, right? Whether that's women that need anyone who needs healthcare, children that need healthcare, public health in general, or they need an education, they're just completely discarded. It's like the worst, right? And there's a good reason for that, because the United States doesn't care, and it can suck everyone else's, right, with this imperial it's imperial neo-feudal capitalistic system where the world's richest and most powerful can be forced and subjugated, and it can draw in by constructing this narrative about it being the light on the hill of the earth, where the Western US-led rules-based order can suck in all of the Chinese, Indian, African, South American, all the Asian brains. They all come into the United. They have. I don't know if that's going to continue, right? But part of that. Oh, we don't need to educate our own people. We don't need to care for our own children. We can always steal other people's children, right? So there's a lot of it revolves around like family on a societal scale, but there's also individual families, and like how Princess Sybil is the daughter of the richest, most powerful neo-feudal liberal family. That's this. The father is the head of the CIA, Forbes richest person in the galaxy, or richest person in the solar system, like 10 decades in a row. And then he's also the most neglectful parent ever, right? Literally doesn't, like, just throws billions at his daughter and tells her to go away. like like he's slightly nicer than Elon, who just uses his kids as human shields and discards his trans daughter and then lies about how he loves having tea parties with her. Like that, there's actual stories like that in Neofeud. And so the most powerful families of the oppressor class are simultaneously the worst parents. They have all the resources. And they just like absolutely neglect the young. Right. The main character in Neofeud is a cyborg, half human, half robot social worker, whose job it is to be a surrogate parent for kids whose parents, because they're impoverished, right? Robots, humans, chimeras. Obviously, there's many metaphors for various kinds of oppression in the earth, and it also exists in the world in Neofeud too. But it's more Neofeud is more focusing on the robot because it's science fictional. It's part of it is like dealing with. I'm trying to talk about the way that people have talked about science fiction, talked about robots, talked about AI. It's really about that history, right? So that's I kind of need to have the robots in there as part of that, and synthetics. Anyway, that's part of the design process for Neofeud. And so so when the humans and the the uprising. That I talk about Robo Revolt, right? It's kind of it's both the uprising in the sense of like the people, the robots themselves rising up against their own oppressors, which is a lot of them are the human, but it's more, it's not necessarily about killing all the humans in a Terminator, Skynet, Asimov story, Matrix. Right, trying to imprison, and I just watched Matrix Reloaded yesterday. It's not just like trying to control and manipulate and use humans as batteries. Even though the current not Skynet malfunctioning wasted software that people think of as Skynet, OpenAI and GenAI, is giant corporations using huge data centers to suck electricity from people's houses and businesses, and the street lights are going out and blackouts, right? So it's the opposite of the Matrix actually happening right now, where the machines aren't using humans as well. I guess the machine it's machines aren't literally using human bodies as electricity, but machines like the data centers are using electricity that people need to turn their computers on, put their lights on, and like cook their food on their electric stoves, right? Because there are huge blackouts, and there's 267% plus increases in the cost of electricity in cities, especially those proximal to data centers, these mega data centers. That accounts for all of the U.S. GDP growth this year. Which is in a giant bubble that's going to explode. Anyway, so the machines like in the game are resisting, and that's why I said it's a human soul, because this is that. I don't want it to be mistaken as like this is a story that's like pro AI, because what even does that mean, right? It's we have about 15 streams on Gen AI and its problems that we've been talking about for over 4 years now, before ChatGPT was released. So you can look at some of those, but and let me finish this point, then I'm gonna look at the chat. But yeah, so the machine's abilities the machines are resisting, but it's, this is obviously a metaphor, right? It's a metaphor, and it's about the human soul. And obviously this is human art, that I was talking about creating, that is using machines as, as a metaphor. And some of it is obviously talking about the possibilities in the future. But, I just, I want to make sure people don't, because there's a lot of sci-fi that is now, as we said, right? The ruling aristocratic neo-feudal elite of our continuum identify themselves as, right, science fictional visionaries. They're like immanentizing the eschaton, and the eschaton is 26, 28, $35 trillion worth of investment into right, these bad plagiarism software. And so but they think of themselves as producing the worlds of sci-fi. Apparently, I was like reading an article about that. I don't know if I can be able to look it up. It was an article on the climate, this unhinged plot to cool the planet off. It's like literally the plot of, it's literally the apocalyptic pre-story of the preamble to the Matrix and Snowpiercer. they're like trying to reproduce that, but but it's like we're gonna do that, but we're gonna do it in a good way. It's so weird. It's really, I don't know why they're even saying that. Sometimes it's I think partially they're just losing it and incredibly incompetent generally. Anyway. Let me make sure I read this chat. Have I named more pseudo classes? In Neofeud 2. In Neofeud 2, there is there's other what's Neofeud 2 takes place in a future. It's not on Earth for a lot of it. So there's other kinds of people out there. Not just chimeras and then the sentient machines. There's also not xenomorphs, but there are not alien immigrants, but alien. They're life forms that did not originate on Earth, right? That some might be called aliens. They're not really called aliens because everyone's an alien in this space world. It's like everyone is technically an alien. Sometimes there's the short derogatory term is xenos. So Neofeud 2 is takes place in a larger, like a bigger space, scientific space. To answer that question, that question was if there's separation between species. That if the separations between peoples, then that's apartheid. There's elements of Neofeud that's definitely like similar to apartheid. I mean, there's a whole host of these. Obviously, that's a major part of Neofeud is exploring. I guess one of the issues we had with the sci-fi and cyberpunk. I was talking about this with our friend Hammods on the Twitch stream on Wednesday, but like cyberpunk. Science fiction and cyberpunk, these tend to, like, historically, a lot of them like kind of allude to certain kinds of oppression. Like, in Blade Runner, they talk about Roy Batty, one of the most famous science fiction movies of all time, and most well-loved Blade Runner, right? The replicant synthetic person, Roy Batty, right, says to Rick Deckard, right, in that one of the most quoted scenes of all time, it ends with, all these moments will be lost in time, like tears in rain. But, earlier in that, when Roy Batty dies, the replicant, right, in the rain, letting a dove go, right, with Harrison Ford gazing on in rapt shock or whatever emotion he's having at that moment. The Roy Batty talks about fear, or this is what it is to live as a slave, right? To live in fear, right? To live as a slave, and so it's kind of alluded to, and they talk about like the replicants being used like as tools, right? In their mining colonies. Roy Batty is a military fighting. He's like a killer. They're not robot. He's a killer created human rightless person because he's not a human. He's a replicant, right? He's an artificial. He's not a real person. He's not a real boy. He's got Pinocchio syndrome, right? So, but then like the way in which like Blade Runner, but like it kind of alludes to that, but doesn't like really investigate that in a way that, like with Neofeud, I was like, I feel like we can let's be a bit more specific and like let's talk about because it's not like theoretical. Like there have been slaves, right, in the world. There have been there's slavery, racism, colonialism, there's all these forms of oppression that have existed, continue to exist. And obviously I talk about these frequently. The colonialism itself, indigenous cultural eradication, like for example, what the U.S. has done in Hawaii to Native Hawaiians like myself. But then there's also the economic situation. There's like the eugenics and the desire to create perfect human beings. There's a recent video. There's a lot of talk about technocracy and like the maximization or just obviously a capitalistic system itself, and or the maximization or the focus only on efficiency to the extent that you prevent from reproducing, remove or exterminate all beings that are not perfect, not suitably perfect enough, as for example, to eliminate all hereditary diseases simply, right? That there's a recently video, I think it was Dr. Fatima put about technocracy, and that one of the solutions was we simply we just posited to recent engineering students. Some of the solutions were, well, we could simply stop anyone from reproducing. We just or fine people from reproducing, and it accelerates to just eliminate all people who have any kind of defects in their biology that could cause them to get sick, ill, sickle cell anemia, you name it, right? And like it's just like, right, if you only have engineering thinking, right? So that's one of the because that creating the Ubermensch, creating the perfect person is one of the projects of the neo-feudal elite, the Clinton, Bush, the Koch Jobs, and the Gates Waltons. These are the ultra rich families in Neofeud 1. And so but in Neofeud it's kind of like I wanted that to actually more be like, there are scenes in Neofeud where the police are directly responding, like in the trailer, like where the police enter the household and they ask, is there a weapon in the house, or do you have a weapon on you, or is there any weapons in the house? And there's a whole sequence where they like come to an impoverished family's home and go through the exact process that Native Hawaiians like myself go through when our children are taken from us by the United States government, right? There's the police coming in and just blowing people away, right? Anytime the empire, it's like, but it's not just like in a very like stylized or like alluded to way. It's like I want it to be like very real. Like you are part of the process. Like the main character, Carl Carbett, is part, right, as a member of settler colonial, anti-machine state. You have to go through that whole process. You have to actually fill out the CPS report that justifies, right, the taking of the children, right? And a lot of people said it made people throw up, like literally vomit or like cry and like just go through all this feelings of like extreme and deep complicity, because it's like you are, right? It's the kind of complicity that you can't really get to that level. And I almost cut that scene, but later on I was like, I think I'm glad I left it in. And not every scene is like that, but like nothing like that happens in Blade Runner. Nothing like that really happens in The Matrix, right? You can easily read, you can just be, oh yes, in a future where there is synthetic, oh my God, it would be so terrible to be a slave, yeah. Oh my gosh, future overlords could put us all in pods. What if the Republican Party gets elected and put us all in pods? Right? Because you can always kind of read a lot of science fiction, right? You can code it so that it makes people that are actually members, because everyone is partially a member of an oppressor class in some way, especially if you're in the global north. You just be in the global north, you're a member of the oppressor class, whether you like it or not. How uncomfortable, however many e-bikes you buy, plastic straws you use, however many times you share, posts about mass unalivings in the Levant, you're still a member of the oppressor class. You're a member of an oppressor, one of the globally oppressor classes, and like that doesn't mean that you just that's one of the complications of Neofeud, right? Is the main character has to deal with like, I'm just trying to survive, but I'm also like, I'm part of a system, part of a system, right? And like to survive, even just trying, for me personally, he lives in a cardboard box. He lives like in a corrugated tin roof with like next to like a step up from a cardboard box. He's like disabled, cyborg. He can barely drive to work. Like he's like, what? He has holes in his shoes and he has coffee spilled off his shirt because he can't afford to replace it. But that's my situation, right? I was a social services worker with impoverished youth in the poorest place in the so-called United States, right? It's not even a real state. It's a fake state of Hawaii under U.S. colonial occupation, according to the UN. But in this ghetto, right, where it was like I was basically walking to work. I was literally walking to work or biking to work because I couldn't afford a car, right? And I was paid so little, I couldn't afford to replace my own clothes while working full time. And for part of me and Holly and the kids were homeless. Like this is literally my life, right? But but and I'm not saying like the work I regret the work I was doing because I was working with impoverished kids. As a STEM teacher, trying to provide opportunities for kids to like basically learn robotics, learn like Lego engineering and math, and help them with their homework, and just like be a father or a parent, surrogate parent for kids whose parents were in jail or out of their minds on drugs, literally, because the United States pushes people of color in Hawaii. It's Pacific Islanders, Native Hawaiians, other Hawaiian kids, somewhat all into poverty. It's the highest rates of incarceration is Hawaiians, actually, and Pacific Islanders, four times more likely than even the black population, which is horrible, right? And so, but even still, like the system that I was in as part of the United States, as part of the collective West, as part of a capitalist economic structure, right? The entire system is premised upon the perpetual and continual suppression of everyone, but in particular the Native Hawaiian populations that are still under occupation, and also the other Pacific Islanders that are all the servant classes, the Filipinos and other Pacific Islanders in Hawaii, and just other people of color. So the part of Neofeud is like science fiction a lot of times wants to posit in some hypothetical future there's a dystopia where things could become bad, right? Or like things are kind of bad now, but they could be so bad. And in this bad future, we just have to stop. It's very, the thing is so theoretical, but like with Neofeud, I want it to be like, we exist in the science fictional dystopian future where things are bad and oppression is happening, right? And, it's not that apartheid in South Africa could happen in the United States. There is already forms of oppression that's not exactly the same as that, or exactly the same as what's happening in, the Middle East, right? But like, these systems are all the apartheid was backed by Americans in the United States, whether they knew it or liked it or not, right? It's not a theoretical thing that maybe one day we might have something terrible here. Like, you are part of a terrible system of oppression every single day of your life, whether you like it or not. And then you have to wrestle with that. You have to struggle with that. You have to feel sick about that, not like all day long, but you can't rest on your laurels that, we're not China, we're not Russia, we're not, a space dictatorship. We're not literally Nazi Germany, right? That's why you don't have nice things. Don't why, but that's why things have and will continue to get worse, right? And that's also where Robo Revolt is, right? Because it's about the collective. I was trying to encourage people, like obviously many people. Like I was talking to our friend Hamad's. Who is also going to be one of the people that's I'm interested to working with him on some future Neofeud related projects. But because he's talking about how he really connected to Neofeud. He's a black person from the United States. His grandparents were in slavery. His grandparents were literally black slaves owned by white Americans, right? And his parents, but he was raised in a culture that was saying that racism was over, slavery was over, Martin Luther King, everything is, all the problems of America, the capitalism, the imperialism, the Vietnam, the militarism, the economic injustices, the racial injustices are over, right? Happy Thanksgiving, everybody, right? But he said his parents told him they educated him. They said whatever American school is going to tell you, whatever the United States is going to tell you, whatever anyone's going to tell you, you have to know that this is your history. This is our history as African American peoples, right? There are oppressors and there are oppressed, and they're going to talk about this in this way. But you have to understand that they're lying to you. Even your teachers are lying to you, whether they know it consciously or unconsciously. And because and that's something that where people of color, especially those Native Hawaiians, like myself. My parents were completely brainwashed, unfortunately, by the United States. It's a legal occupation that has brainwashed them to believe that they're 3/5 of a human, and they're all Catholic Americans now. Even though my parents are from a ghetto. My parents have worked for, they've given all their life to the Catholic Church, and they live in squalor. They live in, their house is basically falling apart. They sacrifice everything to the United States and to the West. It doesn't matter, the Catholic, not specific, it's just one of the Western Christian oppressing institutions. they gave their entire life to that, and then they are not going to retire, and they're like living with nothing. They're living in indignity. But they still, the worst part is they believe that this is the best of all possible worlds. They still look up to the abusive priest that literally beat the Hawaiian out of my mom. My mom doesn't speak Hawaiian language because the Catholic Church smashed her hands when she spoke Hawaiian in classrooms. And she has completely denied it ever happened. We can see there's physical evidence. We know there's all these reports. It's not unique in Hawaii. It's happened everywhere where there's colonization, right? These kinds of things. My parents are completely convinced that their oppressors are the most beloved saviors, right? And like, you know, that's part of Neofeud too. So there's the liberals, the King Warren Clayton Bush is like representative of the liberal messaging you know, against the Republican, you know, mask off, hyper conservative, you know, hyper militaristic, Pete Hegseth like sort of energy, right? But this is the good cop, bad cop routine. And like, so, and in an actual dictatorship, in an actual oppressive situation, right? Like real empires have elections. Real empires have the illusion of choice, right? They don't have one party, you know, having a one party country. Statistically, there's a good chance, you know, your country is actually not that authoritarian. It actually could be very responsive to your desires and your needs. I mean, you know, if you actually look up global statistics, but not that people who have access to that because they're denied that by the matrix that is the Western information infosphere, the Great Wall of the West. Not the great, you know, it's not about the Great Firewall of China. It's the Great Firewall of the West that stops people from learning the truth about their own brainwashing, right? So Neofeud is like, I know, like, I'm saying a lot of those things, and it's hard to bridge that gap because, like, I'm speaking from experience, like, because like I was raised to believe that I was just I was an imperfect white American with a little too much Hawaiianness, you know, a little too brown, a little too big. Your body type is too wrong. But you can aspire, right? You can aspire to be the best Goldman Sachs high frequency trading Goldman algorithm programmer, maximizing returns for investors in Wall Street. You know, that's what you can aspire to be. A really good, you could be a really good brown STEM employee for the ultra rich. You know, you can be one of them brain drained billions of minds of people of kidnapped global scholars, children's, for a West that has never cared about children and have always treated them the way that people who take part in Epstein, which is the entire collective Western political and business elite, treat children, which is to say as property, as things, right? They don't care about their own children, right? They'll just suck other people's children. For countries and cultures that some of which actually care about their own children, they'll just try to pull out the straight A students, right, and have all the AI programmers for Silicon Valley come from China, or have all the biotech, right, pharma come from India, have all the you know, the educated labor. A lot of it comes from Africa. So Dr. Fatima is an ex-Libyan. It's like was brainwashed into believing that the future lay in, you know, being a technocratic engineer of torment nexuses for Apple or Google or, you know, Amazon or the U.S. military. Literally one of the best. She was working on some of the cutting edge astrophysics and astronomy science, right? And then didn't even realize it's actually like her interacting with Native Hawaiians was where she actually realized where the colonialism in her own university system, U.S. Western academia was. And anyway, I'm going on forever. I gotta come back to the looking at the chat. Gioje says my family has lived up Norwegian style. Anyways, okay. So I'm gonna keep going on. So I'm gonna try to refocus because I started a bit late. I'm gonna try to let me look at the chat on this computer. Oh. But yeah, anyways, I just been going off. But if people have questions about Neofeud 2 or Neofeud 1 or anything else, what's going on? I want it to be a little more interactive. So I'm gonna try to not fail at that. What is up, Colin? Thanks for stopping by. I'm going to try to look at the live chat. Guilty said I can't get the family to vax. That's unfortunate. But yeah, anyway, so this is, I'm trying to make it a little bit more interactive, talking about what's going on with the games, and then I just started going off. But yeah, so long story short, yeah, so Neofeud 2 is a game that, what I wanted to kind of get to is, so like in Neofeud 1, it's more about like kind of it's more like a, I mean, it's more than just, I'm just talking around and about the game. It's number one, it's a piece of entertainment, right? It's like, it's something that I hope people have fun with, and you know, you get your $5 or $15 or what, $4.50 that you spend on Neofeud. I hope that you get the money's worth in it. But like, you know, there is all this social and political commentary that is under it, and there's all these undercurrents that's I'm trying to insert in there, because I do want people to actually play it. Who everybody is not necessarily going to be at the same, ideologically not going to be the same as where I'm at. You don't have to be, right? But I want people to like maybe think about things when they're playing Neofeud and Neofeud 2 in a way that maybe they haven't thought about them before. As part of it, and obviously it has to be a fun, like, point and click adventure puzzle game. It has to be like, maybe at least appreciate the art, maybe like the soundtrack. Like I said, like maybe 30% of people, their favorite part of Neofeud is the soundtrack. So like, at least if you get the value of the soundtrack, you know, you like the music, then that, you know, that's worth something. The story, the story has to be interesting. The plot twists have to be, you know, twisty and make you laugh, cry, think, you know, feel things. If you're not feeling anything, if you're not thinking about anything, then I'm not doing my job, you know. So I feel like it has to be, at least be entertaining, you know what I mean? But then also I wanted to also move people in a particular direction, right? And I know this has worked based upon people who have reviewed the game so far, which is, you know, it's not an insignificant number of people. Apparently, the average Steam game makes like $60. So Neofeud has made minus a Steam, I think it's like 50, 60, going to $70,000, which is not a lot over 8 years, but it's more than $60. So shout out to Silver Spoon Game. Apparently, the average Steam game, like let me see the it's like really small. Average Steam game. Yes. Well, not. Let's not use the AI. Let's use let's get some and get an actual link for the actual source. Okay. Let's try and look that way. It's really low, or maybe it's like a large number of games. And they make less than $1,000. I forget what it was. 67% of games have less than 5,000 average. That was in 2023. Okay, so that's the vast majority of games. Even 2 years ago was less than 5,000. Oh, 50% have earned 500. Yeah, 50% earned 500 or less. That's what I was looking for. It was I couldn't remember exactly what. Okay, it's a little more than 60, but and that was in 23. So in 2025, it's probably worse because every year more games come out on Steam. Yeah, so it's, you know, it's rough, but so, you know, so Neofeud has made you know, way more than that. It's not made as much as Valhalla or Hollow Knight Silk Song, which has made multiple millions, but you know, it's more than that. And you know, Neofeud does have a whole series of reviews, you know, like for example, I just trying to grab one. Here's our friend GMO Radio. I have lots of reviews. Obviously, I don't need to share them all. If you have a second to leave a review, it really is appreciated because it does help get, as I say at the end, every review does help get the game discovered. It's kind of like liking or subscribing on YouTube. Each review will positively benefit the creator in like whether people discover the game or not. like here's one of them. After working my way through this game, I realized Neofeud is unbelievably amazing. 10 out of 10. The engine is wonky, but it doesn't matter. The story's awesome. Play this game. 10 out of 10 story. Neo-feudalism, yes. The creator mentions this word all the time. This game is so politically relevant. It's wild. I love this game. This game is the best. So, if anybody gets anything positive out of the game, including like if you pick up on the social and political points, that's a bonus. That's also great, but you don't have to. There's also this one review by this person talked about Metal Gear 5. So I'm gonna find that one. No, not that. It was what was it? Oh yeah, this was interesting. I sat down to write a review for Neofeud 8 to 10 times, but did not know where to begin. So I'll contribute my review as a sentence with some sparse thoughts on the work. Neofeud is the most visionary game on Steam, evocative of the creator's passion, sparing what Metal Gear Solid 5, The Phantom Pain could have been. Never have I seen a game produced by such a small studio translate a vision so well. It is a point-and-click adventure game wherein each line of dialogue is voice-acted and each scene has a MS Paint charm while expressing pure imagination. For example, a chateau ceiling where there is a painting of nearly infinite patterns, reflecting the royals' fascination with the godhead of technological transcendence. This person is a PhD in philosophy, so you forgive them if you don't understand all those words. In sum, Neofeud considers the following. UBI, Universal Basic Income, controlled slums filled with transgenic and outdated synthetic androids deemed sentience and refuse. Digital rights management cigarettes, hyper-modernity through a Baudulardian simulation and simulacra of consensus reality, interested rulers, synthesis of the contemporary prison and military-industrial complexes, skepticism of the motives from those like Elon Musk who promote optimal adjustments to capitalism or late-stage capitalism, authenticity in social movements, and how they're frequently co-opted references to Public Enemy versus Kanye West. What dwells in the abyss that is coming convergence of science, technology, art, and society. Anyways, so that's like this is somebody like they definitely like picked up a lot of the those other themes that's going on simultaneously in Neofeud. So I'm always appreciative for of that. But again, like it doesn't, people don't have to if people don't like find the game interesting and entertaining, then I feel like I haven't done the job. I'm not trying to write a thesis. I'm not trying to do a dissertation. I'm not doing a video. I'm not even doing a video essay, which they can or they might not necessarily be that entertaining. Sometimes they are. But the whole point is just to get a particular political point across. And so Neofeud is it's a game. It's a video game, right? So we got to be real about that. But it's also like it is made by the Silver Spoon Cooperative, which is basically me and Holly and the mini our kids. And but I make the game itself. Like again, the writing, the music, art, programming, and then we produce it. Then we sell the game, and then all the revenue does come to support everything we do, including streams and the videos, and the all the other decolonial and anti-capitalist work that we do here in various ways. I talked about that last week in the Ahupua'a versus or I talked about it in the video I made. I'm gonna come back to your chat once I get this point. The stock markets versus obviously we're trying our best to simultaneously, while we talk about these topics inside of the interactive art, right? Contrary to the CEO of Epic, Mr. Sweeney, who said that games, I could come to current events, but Tim Sweeney who said game companies like Steam should remove. He's the head of Epic, right? He said that Steam game platforms should remove the AI tag, the made with AI tag, from their platforms because it's not necessary in games, right? And and to him I say, right, it's weird because he's talking about like because that's only for art, right? It's only for art. Games are art, Mr. Sweeney. Number one. Number two, we need everybody to know what people are using world-ending, climate-destroying, wasteful, malfunctioning, computer software that steals other people's work, so that we don't support those plagiarist, fake game creators, right? So people don't want to buy AI because it's terrible. AI created stuff. So I just want to point that out. So so community markets versus stock markets. But we also talk about that. Talk about the real world impacts of all these systems, and then also working to try to build that locally. But also there's a global system. There's systems we're involved with, but there's also local, non-extractive, non-exploitative, minimally oppressive, historical indigenous lifeways, economic, but also social and political, that we are trying to restore here in U.S. occupied Hawaii. And so the games and entertainment, we try to, they both support the human created, non-AI created art, continued creation, which is also social and political activism. It's also educational. I kind of talk about the art, the activism, the political action, and education. They're all synergistic. They're all one, and they are cross-disciplinary, intimately interconnected. And I always think of it that in that way. Maybe that's the way that my brain works. Maybe that's like the Hawaiian, that's the Kanaka Maoli brain, or that's more indigenous thinking, is to see things as relational, holistic part of a system, and each one of those impacts the other, right? Each one of those should be not compartmentalization is a tool of the colonizer to separate and remove, right, the scenes of crime, so that each time, right, people can be re-surprised and to reduce accountability and to remove, right, the patterns that you need to establish in order to convince people to take action, right? But to sever off. Sometimes people would intentionally sever off or just close their eyes, particularly members of the oppressor classes, or just people who don't want to deal with the reality that they're complicit in all of these as participants in oppressive systems, right? But like for indigenous thinking, like we have to face the truth. We have to face the reality, particularly if we want to fix these problems. We have to acknowledge that these are systemic problems. And then maybe we have more impetus because we're, as Native peoples, we're more under the boot heel than some other individuals, right, within this complex network of systems of oppression. But so Neofeud is so the games and the art and the education all like have interweave and interlock with each other. And so anyway, I'm gonna come to the chat. Okay, I don't see anything new. Okay. One other thing is I'm gonna share this Neofeud 2 music. One other Neofeud 2 music I just finished working on. Like I said, I created about 16 tracks. Oh, also the upper right character is something I was just working on. Because I've been inspired by a lot of this recent push. I mean, it's really good to see a lot of people are pushing back against this Gen AI that we talked about a lot. And a lot of people are like, I used to like be really critical of people's art, but now if I see any kind of art, no matter how good, if it's just a simple sketch or whatever, I'm just always happy to see that. Like, I'm much more appreciative of actual humans trying to produce art than I was before. And there's a lot more of that kind of energy because I think people are like, I hate 2025. I hate that I have to be thinking about every single thing I look at. And was this created with this soul sucking, horrific, Gen AI software or not? And it makes it so hard to just enjoy any kind of entertainment or art of any kind, right? And that simultaneously is a loss in 2025 because, people didn't ask that question in, like, say, 2005, right? On the other hand, like, forcing people into the position where you have to, like, look into, because people will do things like buy, right? People will buy steel straws, right? People will buy products that are better for the environment, right? People make all these kind of choices, right? They'll look into, right, what source, right? What does the company that I'm buying from support? Like, and you're not always in a position to maybe like make the best choice, or maybe you have to buy a certain product because there's no other options that you kind of need. But people do like look into, right, the ecological impact of the food they're gonna buy. People look into like, oh, is this phone gonna oppress people in the Sudan, Congo, African countries that are sources of blood minerals? People are talking about, I'm not gonna buy an iPhone. One of the reasons is there's no innovation in these new phones. I don't need another phone that's like the last phone, barely different but costs more. If you took the Copilot out, if you trying to force AI onto me in the new phone, is increasingly, it is paradoxically making me less want to buy the phone that you want me to buy. So maybe stop that. Right? It's all these CNBC articles that have been lambasting people for not buying enough new phones, and it's destroying the U.S. economy. But like, so what people can also look into, right? People can also look into like where did the art come from, right? Just like anything else, and and so like that's where at least like look into what studio you're talking about, right? And people have been doing that. Like if there's a studio that has lots of rampant sexual abuse, in the production of a movie, people will watch it. Or if a movie or a game, right, or any kind of art or music uses AI, uses this toxic Gen AI stuff that we're talking about, then similarly, people should be notified and then choose not to buy it, not to consume it. Right, just like everything else, but you can see that like there's one of these struggles is to stop the oligarchy wants to basically kind of stop people from being able, or because they're having a hard time trying to force it down everyone's throat. Like literally today, Grok was saying there's this little drop down box on the top. It says, have Grok explain this post to you. And there's a button for dismiss. And when you click the dismiss button, Grok does the opposite. It just starts babbling and BSing away with its AI generated Elon's ChatGPT outputs. So they're literally trying to trick people into using Gen AI, but they need it because it's the it's a multi-20 trillion plus dollar bubble that the entire global capital system is relying on as its lifeblood, and it's a total fraud. But anyways, okay, here's some music though from it. This is some music and also artwork from Neofeud 2. This song is called the I had already produced the scene on the left is Proto J. He's a synthetic. He's like the Mega Man robot. Mega Man arm, John Connor like head. He also has I gave him a Transformers like gold chain, because he's like he's also a gangster and hip hop artist. But it's kind of like if there was robots that had their own right kind of culture. He like looks up to Optimus Prime in the movies. It's very like some of it is very surreal and it's very like it's not super duper hard sci-fi for sure. That's on purpose. It's not fully magic though. There is technology and there's some amount of science fiction. I just watched The Matrix. The Matrix is also is very surreal, right? It's like there's a lot of not necessarily there's not magic, but there's a lot of like metaphysical commentary. There's like a lot of it's very meta, obviously. Like you exit a simulation amongst other things. But anyways, so I'm gonna play this music right now. I am the human that created the Neofeud 1 Proto-J, but also created Neofeud 2 Proto-J, which is on the right side. And so just I was just working on I already kind of produced his basic body, but I was like I wanted like a high res version of him and how he has grown and changed over the years. Again, he's a robot, right? But is infused with the human soul. Not a robot that is stealing your soul like the pluribus hive mind. That is a metaphor for again, right? This all consuming software, Soylent Green of the human spirit machine. Okay, anyway, let's watch this real quick. Well, I'm sorry, we're not gonna. I just have the song that I composed, so I gotta make sure the song's coming out with the Protege on the cover. This song is called the $6 billion baller who has now become the 6 billion Robo Revolt leader. Oh, okay, it's not playing. Oops, I just noticed that it's not playing. Okay, I'm gonna turn this on. All right. Anyways, so you might hear like in that track, there's like reference. If you played the first Neofeud or you heard the first game's soundtrack, like obviously there's like there's like if you listen closely, like there's like references to Terminator. There's also to I actually way before I was composing that, I went back and rewatched Terminator 2. Judgment Day, just to kind of remember like what exactly I was trying to do. There's like there's some like Deus Ex also references, and certainly in the original music. And then there's I remember like John Carpenter's Escape from New York music was one of the inspirations behind that. And it's like in the first in Neofeud 1, the soundtrack has there's the synthetic robots theme, like the Chrome Boys or Chrome Street. The Chrome Boys is a synthetic robotic conscious robot like gang of gangsters basically. But they're basically trying to survive the impoverishment in the ghettos of Earth, right, in this wasteland below in Neofeud 1. And so like I want, and then the protege who calls himself the $6 billion baller, he has his own personal theme, and so I was trying to like weave those in. But in it, they're basically like, I guess in the Marxist Leninist terms, be like the lumpen proletariat. They're like the impoverished people who don't even have access to basic resources, like the kids from the ghettos that I'm from. Our friend Hamaz says, this is like the hood, like in Chicago. He lives in Chicago and LA, and that's what I meant. It's like, whether it's the shadow cities of Mumbai, London's, Stratford upon Hull, and I got friends from there that like Neofeud as well. And then there's Honolulu, Hawaii, dystopian hellscape you never see when you come for the postcard Corona commercial scenery and the idyllic beautiful blue water and the beautiful white sand beaches. You never see the actual hellscape America has produced here in Hawaii. It's actually the most impoverished place in the so-called United States statistically. In various areas, they hide from you on purpose. When you never see it in the ads, you never see it on your Hilton Hawaii vacation, in the fake Hilton Hawaiian, fake Hilton Village, and the fake Disney Aulani, fake Lilo and Stitch Moana Resort. So that's what Neofeud is. But Neofeud is about all of the ghettos that a Western capitalist racist system produces. And so the robots that are from that try to survive, right? Like the kids that I work with and the people from the place that I'm from. And so so in the first one, they're kind of committing these, they're getting into behaviors like the kids that I was tasked with, right? Some of them were in gangs. Some of them were selling drugs, like in 5th grade. Like it's terrible. And the United States that works with Japan to narco traffic, including methamphetamine, which they call ICE here, and make sure that people are in ghettos. I mean, look at the black populations in crack. Right, while casting blame on the global South and Venezuela as the number one narco trafficker. But I work with kids who are like, some of them are literally, as the families are on these various horrible, toxic drug substances, right? And so the main characters these underserved at-risk youth, which I was, tasked with working with, and these kids in Neofeud they don't really understand their entire situation. Like they don't have any education, right? Protege is literally discarded by the white supremacist capitalist empire into the ghettos, right? That they have produced for him, or they just like as uncaring systems, as uncaring government, as uncaring upper crust elites, right? And as uncaring supremacist system that produces it, they have neglected because Neofeud is partially some people who are more conservative. It's interesting because when conservative people say, who are like liberals too, but definitely conservatives, they're like, I play Neofeud and I agree with so much. There's so many problems with the government, the big government this and the big government that. But I can't sympathize with all of these welfare queens. I can't sympathize with these these filthy criminals, because it's their fault for being corrupt. So Neofeud was about the main characters are people that they are. It's interesting because like certain U.S. white Americans and Europeans actually have a certain reaction to Protege. They're like, oh, why doesn't he talk proper English? He's so uncouth. Why is he saying these words? It's like they're clutching their pearls over there. It just and then the the liberals and the Western conservatives, or more like overtly American conservatives were like, well, all those inner city, all those illegal immigrants, right? All those, right? Those dirty people and those unwanted, I don't want to say the N-word, right? But that's basically what they mean. Those non-white people that's in the cities that's being used, but they're all being trafficked by the liberals. They're taking our jobs. They're replacing us, right? And I can't sympathize with those people. The robots kind of, they talk and they sound and they feel kind of like those people in them cities. They're all criminals, they're illegals, they're criminals, they're doing illegal activities. And so the idea is like your character, the main character, is having to directly deal with, and one of the most sympathetic characters ultimately is somebody who is from, that situation, right? But like he's also, he is part of poisoning his own community with the synthetic cyber narcotics. It's called liquid crystal lithium. It's this science fictional substance, right? That causes the conscious robots when they injected straight into their motherboard, right, or into their USB jack, it causes them to blue screen of death, right? They blue screen, and if they use it enough, right, then they actually start like spouting the Windows 95 error sound and a bunch of like 14.4 modem whistling, right? When they start like overusing the subsys, and so and a protege, but also he canonically he also went to prison when he was like 14, right? So he was partially raised, like he's like, my school was a fucking myth lab, and you know, I got beat to blue screen by a species of cost for looking at it funny, and then like shortly after that, I went straight to the Coastlandia Supermax for sentient machines. Like, you have a special prison just for them. There's actually a whole prison story that's called Protege. It's a short story called Protege. It deals with his experiences in prison. That predate like how he met the other members of his gang, right? This like robot gang called the Chrome Boys. But anyway, long story short, so it's like, so in Neofeud 1, it's like the music also reflects, like this is one of the tracks from it. Anyways, I'm gonna try not just babble on. I'm gonna try to pay attention to chat. If the audio is too loud, I'm gonna turn it down. Shit. Because I almost gotta go soon, so I gotta make sure I at least respond to some people's questions. Well, actually, somebody has a good comment here. I want to make sure I get to that one. Shoot, sorry. Are you? Oh, it's kind of loud. I'll turn it down a little bit, and I'll turn it back up later. Tree-haired ginger ale says yes. Yes, I was listening while washing dishes. It struck me as Terminator, but make it the International. I love it. I mean, well, the Tree-haired ginger ale, you have definitely nailed it. That's basically what I was going for. I was like, because you know, when I was talking around, when I was just going off on that aside about the sentient machines and Protege, like I wanted the Neofeud. Like this is what I'm playing right now is part of the Neofeud 1 soundtrack, right? In which, like I was saying, the main character is, you know, just kind of on the street. You know, it's just kind of like, this one's kind of like just like a general rock, but it's actually like the Dickinston like sentient services robots area. It's just kind of like a general like. It sounds a little bit like Alice in Chains, I know. But it also has like some like there's like some like I just have like some of my favorite things. Like there's some like John Carpenter's Escape from New York, and there's a little bit of like they're kind of like the synth sequence, and then there's like some like Deus Ex like material in there, because Deus Ex is also a major touch point for Neofeud, which is but also there's like the Terminator. If you listen closely, like the dun dun dun, I stuck that in there because I wanted to feel kind of like, you know, like I wanted to, you might not pick up on it consciously, but I kind of wanted people to kind of be like, oh wait, I know that, you know, it's like, oh, this is the machine for, you know, these are the ghetto naders. they're like the hoi polloi, they're like the lumpen, the lumpen, you know, discarded because they were obsolete model, you know, some kind of aiders, right? There's some kind of Terminators, but they didn't quite make the cut, you know, because there is a Terminator-like character called Scott the Hippie Terminator. He's an anti-war Terminator. He's an anti-imperialist Terminator that was sent to, you know, he got his leg shut off in the second Dresden firebombing when they had to basically kill every leftist in Europe. It was called, you know, like I cooked my motherboard. But some of these robots are just like discarded, obsolete models, right? But they're all some kind of created machine. A lot of them kind of look like Terminators, right? They're like some kind of skeletal robot. Some of them like are just like Gibson the Junkie Bot. But then there's Protege. His actual theme is this one, the $6 billion baller. Okay, this is the action one. So like there's like the drum and bass, like, you know, it's like a drum and bass with like rock guitar and like, but there's a more like a more hip hop-ish. Where is the arcade? I think that's what it's called. When you enter the Robot Gangsters space, you have the arcade. Because Protege, he's both a drug dealer, but he's also like an aspiring hip hop artist. Like he wants to be like a big, he wants to be Kanye West. He wants to be, P Diddy, right? Or this is the 20-teens, right? I had lots of kids who wanted to be hip hop, like either basketball or rap artists, like multi-millionaires, right? Aspiring to that life, right? And so like, cause I'm from the ghetto, so it's kind of like, it's robotic, but it also like has like this. Everything is synthesized, everything's synthetic, and there's like squealing modems, and there's like the sound of trash cans in the background. And it's more like dubstep. It's like Naughty's early teens era. And so like this track is like when Protege is just kind of like up and coming, somebody brought about International, right? Because it's got like in this one, his consciousness, right? He has a 11 out of 10. He has like a, I forget. It's like a 10 out of 10 on the Gertzel-Takeda consciousness test, and humans rate 4, right? So he's like super conscious, right? But he's like not conscious of class consciousness. Like his class consciousness is like very low. His consciousness of like how to spell and how to speak proper English is like 0.5, right? But his actual capabilities are extreme because he was a super weapon, right? But he was just discarded, right, by billionaires and hubristic wannabe Elons and Elon Musk's competent scientists. They all threw him into the gutter, right? So now he's like, it's a little bit like a Chappie, like, but he's like, all Chappie also a gangster, right? So in Neofeud 1, that theme of like that's kind of like his theme, right? So I wanted in Neofeud 2, somebody definitely picked up on that. It has some of that Terminator theme, but it's like organized, like it's like in Neofeud 2, it's like he's actually understands like the systems that he's a part of, right? He understands his history. Like Protege has also been locked out of his own history, right? Like many oppressed peoples around the world have. And then when they rediscover, whether that's in Burkina Faso, whether that's in, Black Panthers, or whether that's in Hawaiian sovereignty movements, people discover who they are, right? And what they're actually a part of. Then they can become more organized and conscious of all these, various class, race, colonial, the eugenicism, all of that, right? And the hierarchy. And once they discover all that, then they can become more organized. And so the Protege's the 6 billion Robo Revolt, because it kind of goes from like aspiring to become, right? Because the $6 billion bottle is also a reference to the $6 million man, which is also a science fictional work, right? Let's see, 6. It was a TV series about a science fiction TV series, $6 Million Man, right? And so this is the $6 billion baller is a science fictional robot, but aspiring to make $6 billion. He was costed $6 billion, but he also aspires to make $6 billion, right? So he came from a capitalist, a dark foster lab, right? That just pushed him out of the womb and threw him into like a familyless, absolutely apathetic United States, collapsed, imploded United States. The U.S. future is also part of this. The smash crash in the global finance, and it's just a wasteland of anomie and destruction. And so he has no education, right? He doesn't even have a bad education. He just has none, right? He has whatever the United States and the West ruling classes have shoved down his throat, which is, right? What Black liberation media will talk about a lot. It's like we a few more. You can aspire to make a lot of money in our system of oppression and be one of those token faces in high places. Like you can be a Beyonce, you can be Obama, you can be that one Native Hawaiian that makes it to the U.S. Senate. You can join the U.S. military, and blow up all the people of color for the empire that destroyed your people, right? And so Protege is like kind of goes from like that state of being brainwashed, over time into like getting organized. And so that's kind of like the concept. Anyway, I know I'm just kind of giving but yeah, so like I'm glad that it came through. That is exactly what I was trying to do. I was trying to like go like, this is, because it still has that Terminator like theme, and it still has Proto J's like his synthesizer kind of theme, but then it's like more structured. It's not necessarily like, you know, it's more like a march. Like it has more of the snare drum. It has more, because the Terminator theme, if you listen closely to the Terminator 2 theme, it actually kind of sounds like elements of certain military marches, right? John Connor himself is a military leader leading a resistance. And like, I love the Terminator movie, but again, that's where I'm trying to like, but I with Neofeud and Neofeud 2, I want to kind of like really dig more into like more specifics about like, you know, I mean, it's just like a different approach because, you know, I'm a native one. I want to let's really go into like, what is being resisted specifically? Like what, like in Terminator, it's like, there's some kind of future evil machines. Like there is some commentary about like, there's a lot of cops die for sure. And then there is like a lot of the military, the cruises Skynet with these corporations. There's some commentary in that. And that's great. You know, James Cameron and the team worked on, but you know, but like, let's even more specifically, let's address like, okay, what produces those, why is those corporations in power? Like why, and it's also like, it's the machines will by some kind of fluke accident become conscious, sentient, and then kill humans, right? That's the concept of Skynet. But I'm like, I don't really like that, because that, right, like I talked about before, that takes the onus, that removes the responsibility from the, you know, actually, like look at actual AI, look like not Skynet AI, look at actual real world big tech, right? It's not that the AI is actually coming alive. It's that there are billionaires using advanced software to kill people. They're using software that has some expertise. It has applications, and some of it does real work in the world. But it's using it's horrible handful of rich guys that have not been removed from power, and that are benefiting from all these systems of oppression, that are using, right, automated Palantir piloted drones to kill people. Right? There's no. An evil machine will do evil in the world, right? And you know, it suddenly it will come alive and do evil. Like there are humans that will use not that intelligent. There are humans that will use, right, software, not AGI machines, to do evil in the world. That's what's happening. That's actually what's happening. It's not, you know, the U.S. and the West, empire is not going to last long enough if it's possible to get to some kind of really advanced synthetic consciousness. They're not even close to that. Right. And so like I don't really like how, like, you know, and it's not really James Cameron's fault. It's just people making their own movies. You know, I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying, but I want, like, let's examine like what actually produces like the bad future, right? Like that John Connor is resisting, or is supposed to be resisting in some future, right? Because also like there's always like Central and South Americans are involved in a lot of the Terminator, especially when James Cameron's involved. You know, because Guillermo del Toro and he has a lot of friends that are like, you know, they're like Mexican anti-imperialistas, right? Or Central South American. And so like, right, and so a lot of that is like the energy of the resistance of, you know, like the Che Guevara's, the Venezuelan, the Chavistas, the, you know, Central South American anti-Monroe doctrine, like energy is like part of it, even though it's not necessarily like actually I think in Dark Fate it's even more direct, because 1/3 of the movie takes place, I know I'm like wheel deep in my Terminator lore right now, but it's like 1/3 of the movie takes place in Mexico. And that pissed off a lot of Americans and a lot of Westerners and Norte Americanos and Los Gringos and other Westerners, but especially the Angloid ones. But it's kind of like, okay, but like okay, but again, I'm going too deep in the weeds. But you know, I'm glad that somebody picked up on that, because that's really what I was going for. I wanted to have like, we're resisting in an organized way against these oppressive structures. And in the Neofeud 2, the difference is the oppressive structures are more directly named. You know, it's like it's a fiction, it's a fantasy, because robots, we don't have conscious robots, but it's like they're resisting the systems of the capitalist system, the systems of, you know, racism, all kind of bigotry of all kinds that's complicit with that, and then also the colonial imperial systems. But like it's in a galaxy-wide setting. There are synthetic machines, but like the answer isn't like kill Miles Dyson, or try to, like this kind of Cassandra effect, like just stop the bad future from happening by a handful of people like just intervening, like a it's like a small crew can just kill any particular person, or kill the big bad corporation with some kind of like Dungeons and Dragons crew. Like that's basically what it is, right? It's a small posse, which is fine. I love small posses, but Neofeud 2 in particular is like, it's going to take more than just like 4 or 6, Fast and Furious team, or John Connor, Sarah Connor, and Arnold Schwarzenegger. It's going to take more than just Neo, Trinity, and Morpheus. It's going to take more than just a handful of people. It's going to take like all these people like getting organized on all these different scales, and then like all means necessary resisting all those specific systems, not like authoritarianism or just something to come like vague evil, right? Or this particular bad rich man, or this corporation, right? Or Weyland Yutani specifically, or this. It's like there's all these interlocking systems that all have to collectively be resisted, including with military means. And so that's where like anyway, I gotta look at the chat. I've just been going off. So it is like the Internationale. To sum it up, very 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 well perceived. It is like the Internationale crossed with Terminator. What is up, Street Cat Love? Any influence from Transformers, the animated movie 1986? Colin asked me about Transformers. Okay, so Transformers. When it comes to Transformers, sorry, I'm jumping around too much. Well, if you look closely on Protoge's neck, he has it kind of looks like a Transformers logo, but it's like a gold chain Transformers logo. So, and also his military his red beret, his military insignia of the Revolutionary Silicon Forces involves. It's the Revolutionary Silicon Forces, right? And so then the insignia involves also like a kind of that kind of like robot Transformer send up. There's also like there's multiple references like to Transformers, like I can't remember them all off the top of my head, but yeah, he definitely, it's like in Neofeud's world, like the Transformers are like the positive role models for some of the robots, and then there's also like robots in the R&B, they like look up to these, then there's also like the Terminator movies. Actually, it's funny, like the Terminator movies in Neofeud's world are anti-machine propaganda, right? Or they're not exactly they're not exactly the Terminator movies. They're called like Kill Machine. Like, I gotta take out this. That's a commentary on how like the movies that we see impact culture, right? It's more of a, I guess in the Marxist analysis or Marxist-Leninist analysis might be more like the Gramscian, how the culture and the manipulation happens through TV and movies. So people who watch Kill Machine, Robogeddon, right, or watch cop shows, right? But these are like anti-robot cop shows, right? It's all the robots are just a bunch of tin cans. You got it better to just shoot first and ask questions later. They're all up to no good. We got to clean up these streets of all these these metal street rats. They're causing probably like cockroaches. They're like metal cockroaches in our streets. But it's like this is just like you got to show the machines. They don't feel anything. They don't think. They don't reason. You got to show the machines you mean business by just shooting first. You gotta use deadly force immediately, right? This is what one of the cops in Neofeud comments when he's like, he starts shooting in the middle of like a government office for basically no reason, right? And it's like this is just like I saw in Kill Machine 2 Robogeddon. So the movies and the shows are important. Like the fictional shows in Neofeud are important because that's like part, and in Neofeud too, because that's like how the society is programmed through movies, TV, entertainment, news, along with news media, along with school and everything else. So anyways, forgot why that came up. Okay, I got to wrap this up soon though. But long story short, yeah, there's definitely Transformers is something that went into that. I did watch Transformers more than meets the eye in the 80s, for sure. And at the same time, it's like I don't want Neofeud to just be like, part of it is like obviously references to things people love, and there is a nostalgic factor to it. But I want to like use those as like jumping off points for other social and political commentary and like satire, right? And also to comment on other systems using the historical, science fictional, and robot and cyberpunk media. There's also like just like regular action movies, like Carl Carbon is called Mr. Bruce Willis, right? The Bruce Willis wannabe. One of the Steam achievements is Die Hard Bruce Willis, when you die every way possible, very hardly, in Neofeud. So, but then it's also like yeah. So anyway, I gotta look at the chat. I gotta look at the chat and make sure I don't miss it. I gotta go very soon. It's already 2. Ultimatrix. I don't know what Ultimatrix is, but I'm guessing what the hell is that? Okay, I don't know what that is. But anybody ever play Mega Man X or Mega Man? Protoge's arm. I wanted If you look closely at Protoge's body, I wanted to kind of look a little bit like his body looks a little like Mega Man, and his right arm kind of looks like a Mega Buster. That was one of my jumping off points or inspirations. Was like, I wanted to kind of feel like he's like Mega Man. I guess a little closer. Like if you look closely, he has a little bit like Mega Man X-y looking body. And then one of his shoulders kind of looks like it came off of a broken Mega Man X, and his other arm came off of like another Mega Man, like a Mega Buster. I think he actually calls it his Buster at one point. And he has like all these devices that come out of his arm, right? And it also has like a little like it has like a Nintendo controller built inside of it. And then he's also got, but then he also just has like a random like a laundry line pulley wheel, and then some like bit of like a chopped length of like random pipe, and then the other arm has like 2 rusty, could be like parts of a Huffy bike, or just 2 bits of metal rebar from a collapsed building. He just stuck in the arm because part of it is like all the robots have to look like they're all slapped together. They're all Frankenstein, right? Not because like they were put together by Victor Frankenstein or some guy like that, but because technically they are, because they're put together by hubristic scientists working with ultra rich military industrial complex complicit corporations, like Victor is in Guillermo del Toro's movie. He's literally funded by the military industrial complex of Europe, right? That arms dealer. And so Protege is a Frankenstein in that sense. He's produced by uncaring parent. But he's also a Frankenstein in the sense that like he has to physically, like all the other robots, put himself together. All the other sentient machines have to put themselves together from random parts, because they don't have any healthcare or mecha care. Like, let's talk about mecha care. If they want to stay alive, they have to simply it's like people young people who like duct tape their hands. Like they have like a growing cancer in them, but they can't afford to get it fixed, so they just keep dying, which is like normal in a lot of Western countries, especially the United States. You can either die or you can go to the front line of a bulwark state, like in Scandinavia or Israel, and get some universal healthcare, as long as you're killing innocent people for empire, or like being part of a massive garrison state that's just a giant cannon fodderization like South Korea. Or you can get healed up as long as you're preparing to unheal millions of people for global imperial capitalism, or you can die from cancer and treatable illnesses in America in the core, right? That's actually one of the reasons why America will never have universal healthcare. I'd like to point out is because if it ever had it, there's no way to bribe people. It's never going to have universal healthcare, childcare, or caring for children, maternal leave, because how are you going to suck the rest of the world into the United States, the richest and the most powerful and privileged and the smartest into the United States? And how are you going to push out people to the front lines for the cannon fodder, right? Because most of the U.S.'s wars, they all have utilized proxy war garrison states, with South Korea, weaponizing everyone in Okinawa, trying to pull everyone into, obviously Israel. Well, you get universal healthcare as long as you're unaliving children in Gaza. And so, but long story short, that's a aside. Protege's character is and all the robots have to put themselves together from all these other parts because they simply can't afford it because they're all in poverty, and there's no that's part of the neglect of the Western United States system. That's like it's obviously it's a metaphor for people of color, obviously, and various other oppressed peoples, right, are dying early, don't have access to it. Just everything is worse. Healthcare situation, whatever you're gonna have to deal with as a middle class white person, it's gonna be way more extreme if you're a black, brown, native Hawaiian, right? You might just die. Like black women are like 2.5 times more likely to die in a hospital. Period. Even if you go to a hospital, they might just kill you. If you're indigenous and you go to an American or Canadian hospital, they might just rip your internal organs out. They rip your reproductive organs out without telling you. So like that's a good reason why. Like I almost died going to American hospitals. And there's like my parents actually said this was massive neglect, and why did you let our child almost die? And they basically said fine. They didn't say no. The U.S. medical system, they didn't say, oh no, we didn't try to targetly. I mean, it's very sus, the way that they dealt with this illness. I have like all kind of chronic problems because of this illness they could have treated, but they just chose first order. It's either extreme medical malpractice or targeted medical racism against Native Hawaiians. And so anyway, long story short, so that the injustices in the medical system, injustices in the social work system, all the layers of these systemic injustices, which are not explored again in a lot of other science fiction that tries to deal with the problems of racism, colonialism, slavery, like Blade Runner, like Matrix, like Terminator, and like resisting, right? Like those are like those are made by a certain kind of person, right? They're upper middle class Gen X or Boomer white guys. Let's be real, right? That's who wrote and designed and ran those shows. Okay, well, the Matrix, not the Matrix though. That's a trans Gen X white person, but trans woman. But the I like the Matrix a lot. I want to throw that in there. But like there's more that can be explored, that doesn't get explored because it's. I was talking to Ham. It's like, why isn't it explored? I think it's not explored because the average mainstream paying audiences in the United States and the West like are not prepared for that level of honesty in the narrative. They're not. It's going to be too uncomfortable. It's going to cause too much discomfort. People are going to review it badly, not stop paying for it. It's going to piss off the executives, and it's just not going to happen. I know this because Neofeud, I approached 2 separate publishers to get Neofeud published. They both said, we're not going to publish the game. And part of it because it was too on the nose, right? It was too it was too political. Like I was rejected. So that's why Neofeud, I'm glad I didn't get it published by a publisher because I wouldn't want to be exploited, extracted, and have my game watered down. But part of the reason why I didn't get it published is because I said I'm not going to alter critique of the Clintons, the Bushes, the Gates, the Waltons, the United States, the collective West, and the U.S. capitalist system, the U.S. racist system. I'm not going to make the cops look good for your game, for your publishing company, so that the funders are okay with it. I'm not going to make the U.S. military look good. I'm not going to make any of that. I'm not going to pull back the punches on how racist the United States is, all parties. I'm not going to stop critiquing the Democratic Party, even if all your funders are from the Democratic Liberal Party that, are behind your publishing company. I'm not gonna. That's basically the kind of thing. You got to pull this name. You got to pull these names. You got to stop critiquing that, or we're not gonna publish your game. That's basically what they told me. So I said, well, I'm gonna publish Neofeud myself then. I'm just gonna put it out. So, anyways, but that's what I'm saying. Where it's like there are limits to what can be said. Generally in the West, certainly among corporate crowd, and certainly, on certain not necessarily on the certain platforms, but like if you want to get your game or your movie or your music or whatever funded and backed to a significant degree, right? You want to get a premier placement on Steam, PlayStation, all the big game stores. If you really want that, you have to take your thing and you have to water it down, right? Like that's the way you have to take your art, whatever it is, and you have to rip out a lot of things that's gonna make. And I think it's partially just a business thing, right? Because then if it makes a lot of people uncomfortable, like I said, part of what I want. I mean, you need like in Black Lives Matter when it came, or like with the last 2 years, right, of a mass unaliving, right? People need to people at certain times need to sit with that discomfort that they feel, and then wrestle with how it makes them feel. I mean, people don't need to be like insulted needlessly, right? I'm not saying like, oh, we need a free speech, something, blah, 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 blah. But I'm saying like, if there's actual oppression and problems, systemic injustices in the society, in the system, in the country, in the government, the company you work for, right? Who pays your bills, right? Who gives you who gives your paycheck, right? You can't really you're never going to really be able to solve those problems if you aren't unable to face the fact that, you're complicit with those problems. But that is always going to make people uncomfortable who are part of that oppressor class. Even if it's just being in the United States or being any Western first world country. Like I said earlier, right? So, but then also, like, that's unpalatable because it can turn people off. People might buy less of the product. Reviewers are definitely going to review it badly because they're more privileged class people. And a lot of the people that might otherwise, because people who have the money to buy things, we're living in a plutonomy where 50% of all the entire consumed products is bought by 10% of the richest 10% of the population. So it's even worse now, right? And so long story short, that's where if you really want to say something, that's why I say cyberpunk's not cyber bougie. If you really want to be punk, if you really want to speak against the systems of oppression and address them really seriously, you cannot do it under any kind of capitalist publisher, any kind of significant corporate publisher. They're not even going to make, even whatever they personally ideologically believe, they're not going to allow you to do that because just for them it doesn't make business sense. It's just not going to sell enough. Now, if you exit the West, it's a little different. But I don't. One day, if I get enough of this thing translated, it might be But it's also it's hard to make things as I don't really necessarily want to speak to everyone in Asia, Africa, Latin America. In this particular art, because I want to reach people in particular, right? That could be moved a little bit left, or could be, And of course, I do talk to people around the world as well. But they don't a lot of us are on the same page. Like I was saying earlier, our friend Hamad's yeah, there's nothing that you said that I really disagree with. As a black man whose grandpa was a slave and was raised in America, lived in, cities like Chicago and LA, and everything you talk about, the ghettos, the fascism, the liberal complicity, the systems of capitalism, racism, cultural erasure, colonial erasure, brainwashing, all that kind of everything you talk about, what the U.S. empire does around the world, this history. I don't disagree with any of that. And it's and so for those people, that's not everybody, right? Even if you are not a person of color, but you might not have that other narrative. You might be like me. You come here lost without, like Proto J, just kind of being brainwashed by that empire, and then having to kind of slowly stumble your way back towards the truth with the assistance of people from of BIPOC people from around the world and from sources outside of the West. A lot of the financial and economic, my first my own personal lifelines out of the matrix were coming from Russia supported American journalists, which is Empire Files, Chris Edges, Max Kaiser. These are Americans, but they were reporting outside of the U.S. Western funded system, trying to talk to their own people about what was happening. This is in the noughties, right, way back in the day. So anyway, but long story short, yeah. So that's so when we talk about that's why it's a decision. If I was to sanitize Neofeud, it's just it's a fun cyberpunk game and there's talking robots and you fight oppressors and who is that? The oppressors is this big evil guy in this castle. I just play dungeon. There's a big evil lich in the castle somewhere, except he's not immortal because of magic and consuming the blood of virgins. He consumes the blood of virgins and sealfish sashimi, but he's immortal because of nanotechnology. And he's a really evil guy, and you can fight him and all of his minions. Right? And I could just make a fun little romp and I'm not saying that it's bad if you. I just played Dungeons and Dragons, the 1995, 1990s, beat 'em up, but like, but that's okay. That's entertainment, but like, I want to do something more than that. I want to actually like, hopefully make things better in this world on top of people being entertained while they're being entertained. Because the thing is, if you consume entertainment, there's entertainment that you can consume that will definitely move you to the right, or they'll definitely increase your brainwashing, right? Everything is political, right? If you watch shows that show American cops, right, or U.S. military doing positive things in general, right, in a good light, in a fraudulently good light, you're gonna be moved, right, towards a stormtrooper mindset. So either way, right? Now there's something that's more neutral, but there needs to be some things that are, in the entertainment, music, movie, art, games world that's also moving people in the other direction. And I'm not saying there's nothing else that is. I'm just saying like that was a choice I had to make, and it does cost you some sales, or maybe people buy it more because it's I don't know. I definitely wouldn't get. You would not get the corporate backing. You would not get the corporate backing that could increase your potential sales and your potential access and your potential how much production value you can put into your project, like how many people can work on it, right? And like the level of placement you get in these stores, right? Unless you sanitize your work. Anyway, that's a topic people already probably understand. I'm just going off. Okay, I gotta wrap it up. I'm not looking at the chat. Long story short, yeah, that's it. Okay, I think I answered all the questions. Thanks everybody for watching. I'm really way late. I'm sorry I started late. I'm just giving a little bit of updates on what's happening with Neofeud 2, and what is going on when it comes to the. Wait, what is going on here? Hold up. What is currently on my screen? Okay, I was just doing some. I'm like, what the OBS stream is showing something different from the YouTube live stream interface for some reason. This has been Neofeud 2. Some updates. I probably should have said this earlier, but like, long story short, I wanted the music to be done by this month. I'm on the last song, so I have finished every single song except basically the ending. So I got all the music done, except the ending. So I'm currently working on that. The ending actually it's a full-on song. Like, multiple of the voice actors are actually going to sing their parts. It's actually a live concert. So that's going to be actually our Mexi, one of our some people know Mexi from Positive Leftist News and other left circles. Mexi was also on the Neofeud 2 voice actor stream about a month ago. So Mexi is going to be one of the singers. So I'm interested. So I have to coordinate. I've never done that before, where I had multiple voice actors all singing on one track. I'm gonna compose like the background track. So I'm gonna I got to do some singing myself on that. So I gotta work. I gotta do all my do re mi fa sol la ti do and all that. I have sung before. In my Silver Spook Bandcamp discography, there is songs I'm just singing on. So but I've never done this like multiple of the characters in the game are going to be singing as their characters in a live concert in the game. So that's I'm looking forward to finishing that. I'm a little bit of like, it's going to be new. So I'm hoping that all works out. But yeah, it's going to be fun. And I was hoping to get Neofeud 2 done before and released before Fallout comes out, which is the Fallout Season 2. Which is in like mid-December. I don't think I'm going to make it, unfortunately, but I never say never. Once I finish that last song, I got to like run through it myself, and then there's a testing phase. And then, but hopefully in December, hopefully in December, I'll be able to get something out. I'm probably going to put it out first to itch, before the Steam release, because I want to kind of soft launch it on itch.io, for those who are interested in playing Neofeud 2. And but yeah, that's where it's at. So yeah, so long story short, I'm still a little bit behind, but I mean, like when I made that Proto J song, I really needed to, there's a whole bunch of other songs, when I made that new Protege robot theme song, all those music, it takes me a while. I really gotta think about what I'm doing. Like I had to go back and rewatch the movie, and I rewatched a bunch of. I rewatched some Terminator. I rewatched The Matrix. I reread some stuff from Neuromancer. I was trying to remember what exactly I was doing, and I'm trying to what does that kind of like a not too bright, misled gangster turning into an organized resistance leader. What does it actually sound like? What is that? How does it kind of not? I was just that kind of stuff that's a lot of creative work. It's so sad when people say I'm using AI to make music because nobody wants to make music anyway. I'm like, it's not. It can be difficult. It's not easy. It can be hard sometimes to make good music, but it's worth the artistic struggle. I mean, I'm super happy with the product. I mean, not every time you're 100% happy, super always perfectly happy with every story I write, every song I produce, every piece of art I make is not always the best ever, but it's always a fulfilling process to go through. So I just want to comment on that again. I know I keep tangenting towards that, but people are talking about oh, nobody wanted to compose music, so we're all going to use Suno, or we're all going to use AI generated music now. Spotify has all these number one artists is AI generated, even though there's also AI generated listeners, and that's all being rigged. And right, why are people right? So it's kind of So I just want to say that I spent over a month working on the music. It's been super fulfilling to do that. It's been a struggle, but anything worth doing is going to be difficult at times. Climbing a mountain, creating a cure for a disease. I mean, building a new technology, being a parent to your children, being a good friend, having a human relationship with a real human. Sometimes that's uncomfortable. Sometimes that's a struggle. Well, that's part of life, and that's part of what makes life worth living, and that's part of having a fulfilled, not necessarily a perfectly happy life, you're on Prozac, but to have a full, complete human soul and a whole complete life experience. And some of the best parts of life are those parts where you have to struggle. That includes making working, and creativity happens when you're struggling. Creativity happens. I'm what am I gonna do for this? When you're staring at that blank track file, when you're staring at the blank Photoshop canvas, when you're staring at that blank paper, or you're okay, you got 2 days. You gotta make me a character that is like a robot, and he's got to be kind of like a protagonist, but he can't be this guy. And you got to what am I going to put in that space? That's where creativity happens. When you are actually struggling. I think that people are so sad. People writing with ChatGPT, making music with Suno, or I say having ChatGPT take other writers' writing for them and pretend like they've written, having Suno take other musicians, artists' music from them and give them the false sense of having produced anything. And people are complaining that, oh, it's so hard to come up with prompts for the music AI generator. It's just this is so sad, because there's no future in that. You know what I'm saying? There's no soul in that. There's no future in that. It's just that's a dystopian wasteland that's beyond the greatest sci-fi cautionary tales, even that I have produced at Silver Spook. Anyway. Time to wrap it up. Thanks everybody watching. If you want to help us out, don't forget to grab Neofeud on Steam or also on ish.io. You can help us out directly at ko-fi.com/silverspook and also at patreon.com/Neofeud. As I said earlier, I already said it earlier, so I'll just kind of quickly. And all that support does help us keep on doing this work at the Silver Spook Cooperative. Finish in Neofeud 2. There's Mexi is gonna be singing. American Johnson and Luna Oy are voice actors as well in the Neofeud too. Greatly appreciate their contributions. And Mexi is not only voice acts, is also going to be singing an Evanescence style new metal operatic Wake Me Up Inside style track. I'm interested to see how that's going to work out. I'm really excited. But also other work that we're doing, including composing the music and updates on the Silver Spook Cooperative, plus Silver Spook Discord access and Silver Spook University access. You can also get Neofeud, of course, on Steam, as you probably already figured out. and on itch.io for Windows and for Mac and for Linux on the Itch website. And every sale does help us out at the Silver Spook Cooperative to keep on doing this work. There's also other games like Decolonators. If you want even more in your face political games, Decolonators, I don't know how you can get much more than that. You literally fight colonial capitalist empires. And then there's also Indigenous Star, Pigeonwick Gun, and so multiple short story collections, as well as Woman, which is a book by Holly, which critiques the right-wing conservative Christian world. And you can also follow Silver Spook Games at wandering.shop, Silver Spook Games at mastodon.social, Silver Spook Games on Mastodon. And you can follow us on all over the place. Look for Silver Spook. And sorry, I got too many windows open. My computer is saying you're running out of memory, so I gotta close some of this. You can find Silver Spook. Look for Silver Spook everywhere, and you can also look for Holly at Allergic to Blue, our moderator here, always doing a great job and helping raise the kids, as well as sharing important information like all of this on this thread, and also on Instagram. Look for Holly as well. And thank you to our patrons again. Massively appreciate all the support over the years. I know it's taken way longer than I want. If you're like, Silver Spook, I wanted you to finish Neofeud 2 within like a year, and I've been Patreon for 8 years. I'm like, well, thank you for sticking through. Honestly, I wish it was done a lot faster too, but I just want to get it done in a way that, like, I wish I had made it a little bit shorter now, but it's like I kind of need to get it done, and I want to get it done in a way that does it justice and does everyone justice that wants to play it, and also all the people who contributed their voices to it. I want them to make sure they are happy also with what they participated in. Thank you so much to all the patrons, though. We really appreciate it. And until next time, keep your shades polished, be excellent to each other, and have a good one.